All right, let's get back to the big story tonight. The runoff in Georgia. Republican candidate Herschel Walker conceded the race within the last hour. The Democrat Raphael Warnock declared victory. Guests from both sides of the aisle up late with me here on the show to talk about it. Tracy Pearson, an attorney and Democratic strategist, and Kim Klacik, a former Republican congressional candidate from the state of Maryland. Ladies, thank you both for joining me, and Kim especially. It's good to see you again.
You too. Great to be here.
Tracy, I know we had you here a couple of weeks ago, but I want to talk to you about this race because I don't think it's been a long time since we looked at Georgia as sort of a microcosm of where the U.S. is. This was still a very tight race, and we saw the lead flip quite a bit throughout the night. But in the end, it's who gets the most votes, and we know that Reverend Warnock was the winner tonight.
Yes, indeed. Jim, it's great to see you. It's great to be back. I am so glad to see the election season over with. I'm sure you are, too. But tonight, it demonstrated how fractured we are as a nation. There are people that vote for personality, and there are people who vote for other reasons, for example, defending democracy. And tonight, democracy won.
Kim, you were on the ground there, and you had spoken with Herschel Walker along the way. One thing he said in his concession speech, which really struck me, is very valid. He said there are no excuses in life. He gave a very gracious speech on the back end there. When you were in Georgia and when you were on the ground, what were some of the issues that were guiding voters there?
Yeah, well, you know, Georgia is tough, right? We saw the runoff race that happened for the Senate back in 2021 when Kelly Loeffler ran against Warnock, and you had Perdue ran against Ossoff. And I think it was kind of a repeat, unfortunately, for the Republicans. You know, a lot of people are, still have mixed feelings about what happened in 2020. I had a lot of people on the ground there asking me if they felt that it's going to be a secure election. People are still talking about election integrity and whether or not the voter rolls were clear, whether or not they could trust the polling locations and what was happening at those polling locations. But at the end of the day, I think it was a very tight race, and I was happy to see it. You know, Herschel Walker is a brand new candidate, and I think he did a really good job.
I got to tell you, Tracy, Raphael Warnock, he has won now 5 elections in Georgia in the last 2 years. He won a primary, 2 general elections, and 2 runoffs there. Clearly, he was doing something right along the way. But when you look at him as a candidate, what stood out to you when it came to the Reverend Senator?
I think that Reverend Warnock is someone who has integrity. He is somebody who stands by his word. He's clear about what he means, and he shows up for the people of Georgia. That was his message. He has reached out across communities. They were running commercials on YouTube in different languages. He recognizes that Georgia isn't just black and white. It is a mixture of a group of people that come from a number of ethnicities and backgrounds and nations. And he is somebody who is, I think, supportive of really the big tent mentality of a Democratic Party.
Kim, so we now have a split Congress. And you can make the argument that, it's 51-49 in the Senate for the Democrats. Republicans have about a 6 or 7 seat majority in the House. It doesn't look like any party has a clear mandate. Do you see, from your perspective, that maybe you have both sides concede a little bit and saying maybe they realize we're going to have to work together to get something done for some things that a lot of voters care about?
I really hope they do. I mean, at the end of the day, I know that they've, especially Republicans, have already been talking about doing some investigations, whether it's the Hunter Biden laptop and other things. We still hear about the January 6th committee hearings. I hope they really just put a lot aside. I mean, of course, investigations are important, but there are a lot of people still looking around at different things that are happening, here in America, and that is inflation, the supply chain issues, gas prices still aren't where we want them to be. And I think that there are some people still wondering whether or not we could end up with something like a COVID pandemic in the future. And I don't know if we're really prepared for something like that. And so I just hope that they really work together and try to figure out things and steps that we can take as a country as a whole, right? President Biden ran on uniting the country. And I hope that Republicans and Democrats can get together this time around and show that we do have unity here in this country.
I think it's a really good point, and I'm sure it's something that you saw. I know you saw, Kim, on the ground when you were running for Congress in Baltimore. As we look ahead, though, I want to get something I heard a lot of Republicans say over the last couple of hours. Laura Ingraham on Fox News said, and I'm going to quote her, she said, "I'm pissed." She said the GOP needs to do something different moving down the road. What do you think the Republicans have to do to get back to some winning ways down the road here?
Well, this is a conversation I think I have all of the time, unfortunately. You know, right now, a lot of people are looking at the RNC chair position. Ronna McDaniel's been holding that seat for quite some time. There are a lot of people that have already announced that they're going to run against her, like Harmeet Dillon, who also was with the RNC, Lee Zeldin, and a few other people that people are really starting to talk about. And this is something that Republicans have a hard time with. They do not canvass and really put a lot of effort into urban areas. And as you saw tonight in Georgia, you had a lot of votes come in last minute from Atlanta and the surrounding Atlanta areas, whether it was Fulton County, DeKalb County, Cobb County. And when you put all those votes together, you saw that many vote for Democrats. And that is because, honestly, Republicans need to show up in those areas and stop ignoring the Black vote.
And, you know, it's funny because, Tracy, that is something that has been a knock a long time for Democrats, that many people have said the Democrats have taken African Americans and other communities for advantage and just assumed that they would vote for them as well. So I asked you this a couple of weeks ago when we had you on after the midterms. I'm going to ask you this again. Now that we know, now that the stage is set, what do you think, what should be priority one for the Democrats in the Senate when they convene in January?
I think that they need to be looking at what they can work on together. And I agree, I absolutely agree, looking at being prepared for the next pandemic, being prepared for how to deal with the supply chain issue. Right now, there are issues with pharmaceuticals where people can't get the medications that they need from their pharmacies because they're on back order. And that's a major problem for a lot of folks. Being able to afford those medications, being able to afford the cost of living. I think that those are things that we need to be focused on, and we should be focused on those types of issues. And we need to let these investigations, if you want to investigate, great, but let's not make it the center of your platform that's what you're going to spend your time in office doing.
Kim, I have one last minute here. So I asked Tracy about what she wants to see the Senate Democrats do. Republicans are going to take over the House in a couple of weeks. What do you want to see them do priority one?
Oh, man, I can't believe it, but I agree with Tracy. I agree 100%. We need to focus on the people. We need to focus on what everyone is looking at, especially, like I said, their bank accounts, right? I mean, a lot of people are really struggling right now. And I agree. Look, the investigations, sure, they're important, but they're not a priority right now. And I think Republicans and Democrats need to understand, look, it's time to work together, put some of this stuff aside, and really do something that we want to see happen.
Can I be honest about something? This was my favorite discussion we've had because I think you both come from different backgrounds. You both have different thoughts, but we're Americans and we want the same thing here. The question is how we do it. Tracy Pearson, Kim Klacik, thank you both, ladies. I appreciate you both.
Thank you very much, Jim. It was great to be here.
And the Final Five is back after this.